It's late. You're lying in bed, almost asleep, and out of nowhere, it surfaces. That thing you said, that thing you did, years ago, sometimes decades ago, and yet it arrives with the same hot, prickling feeling it had the first time. Your face actually flushes, in the dark, alone, over something that doesn't matter to anyone but you. You'd think your brain would have let this go by now. You've had thousands of days since then. Most of them, you can't remember at all. But this one moment, this specific, cringing, mortifying moment, it's still right there, filed, indexed, ready to play. Why? The real answer is far stranger than, you're just an anxious person. It has to do with how your brain decides what's worth keeping, and that system was built for a world where being embarrassed could get you killed. Start with the basics. Your brain forgets almost everything, on purpose. Every day, you're flooded with information. What you ate, what color shirt the bus driver was wearing, the exact wording of a text from 3 weeks ago. If your brain stored all of it with equal weight, you'd be buried. So it doesn't. It runs a constant, mostly invisible filtering process, deciding what gets discarded and what gets reinforced. And one of the strongest signals your brain uses to decide, keep this, is emotional intensity, especially negative emotional intensity. This isn't a flaw, it's a feature, and it's an old one. Picture your ancestors, not in a classroom, not at a party, but living in a small group where every single person mattered. Your reputation within that group wasn't just how people felt about you. It was your access to food, to protection, to a mate, to survival itself. If you did something that damaged how the group saw you, that wasn't a minor social hiccup. That was potentially catastrophic. So your brain developed a system that treats social missteps the way it treats physical danger. Burn your hand on a fire once, and you don't need to be told twice to avoid fire. Make a fool of yourself in front of the group once, and your brain wants that lesson burned in just as deep. This is where a small almond-shaped structure in your brain comes in, the amygdala. Neuroscientist Joseph Ledoux has spent decades studying the amygdala's role in emotional memory. His research shows that the amygdala acts almost like an alarm system, and when it fires, it doesn't just register something happened. It sends a signal to the hippocampus, the brain's memory formation center, that essentially says, this one matters, store it deeper. The stronger the emotional charge, the stronger that signal. And shame, embarrassment, humiliation, these aren't mild emotions. To your amygdala, they can register with an intensity similar to fear. So when you said that awkward thing in front of everyone, your brain didn't file it away like an ordinary Tuesday. It stamped it urgent, do not repeat. And it filed it somewhere deep, somewhere it could be retrieved instantly, because as far as your ancient wiring is concerned, this is exactly the kind of information that keeps you alive. Here's the part that makes this even stranger. Psychologist Roy Baumeister, along with several colleagues, has researched something called the negativity bias. Across many studies, the same pattern keeps showing up. Negative experiences are remembered more vividly, in more detail, and for longer than positive ones. A compliment fades, an insult lingers, a pleasant interaction blurs into the background of your week. A humiliating one gets its own permanent folder. This isn't because you're pessimistic. It's because, evolutionarily, the cost of forgetting a threat was much higher than the cost of forgetting a nice afternoon. A missed pleasant memory cost you nothing. A forgotten danger could cost you everything. Your brain, in other words, is running a very old risk calculation. And in that calculation, the time you embarrassed yourself in front of the group looks a lot like the time you almost got eaten. Now here's the twist. You'd think that with enough time, these memories would fade, just like everything else. And in a sense, the details do fade. You might not remember exactly what you were wearing or the exact words used. But the emotional charge, the cringe, the heat in your face, that often stays remarkably intact. Researchers studying memory have found that emotional memories are often reconsolidated every time you recall them. In simple terms, Every time you think about that embarrassing moment, your brain doesn't just play back an old recording. It rebuilds the memory, and in doing so, it reapplies the emotional tag. So the very act of cringing at the memory reinforces the memory. This creates a kind of loop. The memory resurfaces. You feel the old shame. That shame strengthens the memory's emotional charge, which makes it more likely to resurface again later. Each replay isn't erasing the memory, it's polishing it. This is why a memory from 15 years ago can still feel as sharp as something from last week. It's not because your brain has been stuck on it the whole time. It's because every time it resurfaces, even briefly, even at 2 a.m. for no reason, it gets a small top-up of emotional reinforcement. There's also a social piece to this that's easy to miss. Anthropologists studying small-scale societies have noted that reputation in tight-knit groups is remarkably persistent. A single notable incident, good or bad, can define how someone is perceived for years, sometimes for life. In a group of 50 or 150 people where everyone knows everyone, there's no anonymity to hide behind. One memorable mistake can become part of your story, told and retold by others. Your brain seems to have internalized this. It doesn't just remember the event. It seems to assume, somewhere in the background, that other people remember it too, that they're still thinking about it, that your reputation took a hit that hasn't healed. Here's the modern twist. In most cases, they're not. The person you said something awkward to in 2009 has, almost certainly, not thought about it since approximately 2009. Their brain ran the same filtering process on their memory of the interaction, and unless it was unusually significant to them, it likely didn't make the cut. Their amygdala didn't fire. Their hippocampus didn't get the store this deeply signal. For them, it was an ordinary moment, forgotten along with thousands of others. But your brain doesn't know that. It's still operating as if you live in a small tribe of 150 people, where every social misstep is permanently recorded in the collective memory, where reputations are fragile and unforgiving, and where being remembered for the wrong reason could genuinely threaten your place in the group. You don't live in that world anymore. But the part of your brain running this particular program hasn't been updated. It's still treating a slightly awkward comment from over a decade ago with the same seriousness it would treat a real threat to your social standing. So when that memory surfaces at night, uninvited, dragging that old hot feeling with it, it's not a sign that something is wrong with you. It's not proof that the moment was as catastrophic as it feels. It's an ancient alarm system doing exactly what it was built to do, in a world that no longer requires it. The memory isn't haunting you because it matters. It's haunting you because, a very long time ago, in a very different world, memories like this were some of the most important information a person could carry. It's late, you're lying in bed, almost asleep, and for the first time, maybe, the memory surfaces, and instead of the same hot flush of shame, there's something else. A small, quiet recognition. Not, why did I do that? But, there it is again. The old alarm, still ringing, for a danger that passed a long, long time ago.